I bought this exact sandwich 2 different ways. First, I walked into the restaurant and paid $8.93 after taxes. Then I opened DoorDash, ordered the same sandwich from the same restaurant, and paid $16.91. After a huge discount from DoorDash of $0 delivery fee, and it's still almost double what I would have paid at the restaurant. Thanks, DoorDash. The craziest part is DoorDash knows most of us will still choose the latter. A 2020 price comparison by Forbes found that the same sandwich ran 46% higher on DoorDash than in stores. The food has been marked up before you even saw a delivery charge. All because one company has figured out how much extra you'd pay for your convenience and turned that answer into a $90 billion business. This is how DoorDash engineered the perfect business. A business where the customer pays more than they think, tips more than they meant to, and keeps coming back because quitting feels like a loss. In Palo Alto, California, back in 2012, 4 Stanford students were walking down University Avenue interviewing small business owners for a class project called the Startup Garage. 2 of them, Tony Xu and Evan Moore, were MBA students at the Graduate School of Business. The other 2, Andy Fang and Stanley Tang, were undergraduate computer science students. At one of the restaurants, the owner pulls out a thick binder. It's full of delivery requests she can't fulfill because she doesn't have a driver. She has people who wants to give her money but no way to get her product to them. Months later, in January 2013, Tony Xu and his co-founders scrapped menus from 60 local restaurants into a single PDF, slapped a Google Voice number on the homepage of paloaltodelivery.com and launched. The phone starts ringing within hours. The first order is pad thai, and one of the founders delivers it himself in his old Honda Accord. According to Stanford Daily, in September 2013, the site listed 60 local restaurants with a flat $6 delivery fee, and the founders took turns doing the deliveries themselves. Xu has said that the insight was about supply rather than demand. In a 2015 Stanford talk, he pointed out that 85% of the restaurants and 99% of small businesses in America didn't offer delivery. Pizza chains had their own drivers, but everyone else, the Thai places, the burger joints, had absolutely nothing. The founders' goal was simple. They wanted to turn every restaurant in America into a Domino's. Then came the football game. In the fall of 2013, Stanford played Oregon. Orders flooded in, and the 4-person founding team got buried. Deliveries were late and customers were mad, and the founders had to refund everyone. That refund wiped out 40% of their bank account in a single night. And now that detail matters because whatever DoorDash became, it started with 4 people who could not sleep because they let customers down. Keep that in mind for later. Then they stayed up baking cookies and hand-delivered them at 5 a.m. with written apologies. That was a lesson they learned. They realized that they need some funding to expand and take on drivers. So that is when they applied to Y Combinator, the business accelerator program that launched Airbnb, Dropbox, and Stripe. That summer they got in, but on the day of the demo, no venture firm were interested in them. Xu describes themselves as being in the bottom half of the batch, but they didn't come back with nothing. Paul Bacci, the guy who built Gmail, cut them a personal seed check. The founders then made a decision that looked crazy at the time. While every other delivery startup was fighting for careers in downtown San Francisco, DoorDash aimed at the suburbs. By 2015, DoorDash was losing money in every city they entered. Most of Silicon Valley thought they were going to die, and they nearly did. Between 2016 and 2019, DoorDash was, in Tony Xu's own word, constantly running out of cash. He publicly described 3 consecutive years of cash scarcity, voluntary employee departures running between 20 and 25%, and coming within days of signing a down round. Basically a new funding deal at a lower valuation than the last one. But while Grubhouse, Caviar, and Postmates fought each other in the city centers, DoorDash was busy solving the problem that had almost destroyed them at the Stanford football game. Then they built the batching algorithm, so one dasher can take multiple orders on a single route, more deliveries per hour, lower cost per order, and also they set up minimum $2 base pay. On top of that, in 2018, DoorDash launched DashPass. For $9.99 a month, you get unlimited free delivery on orders above a minimum amount. By the time the company filed for its IPO in late 2020, DashPass already had 5 million subscribers. And then the tip situation came in. The District of Columbia Attorney General announced that DoorDash had agreed to pay $2.5 million to settle a consumer protection case. The claim was that between July 2017 through September 2019, DoorDash used customer tips to subsidize the company's own base pay obligations, rather than passing them on to the workers. Customers thought they were tipping drivers, but they were actually tipping DoorDash. The thing about food deliveries is that it is a three-sided market. There's the customer, the restaurants, and the drivers, all held together by a single platform. In the end, someone always gets squeezed, and it's usually either the worker at the bottom of the chain, the person paying for the service, or both. Now, Forbes also did an investigation in delivery apps and found that they were charging extra fees on menus. They found that the fees these platforms charge restaurants are so high that restaurants were actually losing money on delivery orders. So restaurants have to pass that fee to the customer, and in the end, the customer has to pay. Pre-2020, every delivery company in America was losing money. Investors stopped asking which one had the best product and instead started asking which one would still be standing when the music stopped. But in March 2020, they all went silent, except for DoorDash. Then the COVID-19 hits, and restaurants started closing dining rooms, schools were sending kids home, businesses were shutting down, and the entire world was going in lockdown mode. But not DoorDash. DoorDash orders doubled in roughly 1 week. By the end of the year, the numbers were higher than the rest of the industry. DoorDash's Q4 for 2020 orders hit 273 million, and then Shu made a move that looked from outside like charity. He cut the commissions restaurants had to give DoorDash during the lockdowns. The chief business officer at DoorDash said, "If restaurants don't thrive, we cannot." But if you look a little closer, the math explains the gesture. Keeping commissions low during the shutdown kept restaurants alive, and DoorDash was buying loyalty from restaurants at the exact moment its competitors were squeezing them for more money. And that led to two things. After the pandemic, DoorDash still had a healthy supply of restaurants to deliver from, while their competitors had burned down their bridges. Between late 2019 and late 2022, restaurant meals ordered through third-party delivery apps tripled. But then something insane happened. The pandemic food ordering habits became a post-pandemic habit. University of Wisconsin-Madison ran a study. They found that the best explanation for this was that a lot of people signed up for services in the pandemic and never left them. Americans came out of the pandemic with a new idea of what counted as normal eating. A company that had failed to raise funds at Stanford 6 years earlier was now worth more than 2 of the largest national restaurant chains combined. All thanks to an unhealthy habit they got us into. But again, they did something weird. Open the DoorDash app today and order something. You will find that the money splits in 4 buckets, and only one of those is the price of the food. The first bucket is the menu markup. The restaurant has to charge you extra because DoorDash has put so much fees on them. Bucket number 2 is the service fee, which is usually 10 to 15% of the subtotal. Then comes bucket number 3, which is the delivery fee, the one you expect and the one that you know you're paying. And finally, bucket 4, the tip. It presents itself as a choice, but it isn't. A Harvard Law School paper published in 2014 found that DoorDash's tipping system mirrors the same dark patterns other e-commerce checkouts have. They include pre-selected tip amounts that are there at default. They even say that if you want your order fast, you have to leave a certain amount of tip. Basically, you're paying for menu markup, service fees, delivery fees, and tipping fees. And if you combine all of it, it is a lot of money. But DoorDash does not do that. They do it separately to trick your brain. Then DoorDash did something insane. In 2020, DoorDash launched DashMart. These are warehouses that look like stores. There are no shelves, you can browse with no cashiers. Just inventory sitting in windowless buildings, waiting for a dasher to come pick it up and bring it to you. Academic research documented in 2014 found that New York alone had 115 of these stores. So what does this all mean? DoorDash makes $13.7 billion in annual revenue. It also has 67% of the US market share, and around a third of every American has signed up for a food delivery service. Now, calling DoorDash evil or bad misses what actually happened. The founders of DoorDash found a product that Americans were willing to buy but never knew about: the right to never think about dinner again. And then they put a price on it. The only question left to answer is, what are you willing to keep paying for the feeling of getting back your time?